Have you ever had that specific nightmare? You know the one I'm talking about.
Oh, I think I do.
You're standing in a room, maybe it's a classroom, maybe a boardroom, or this is the worst, a crowded dinner party. Everyone is looking at you, waiting for you to speak. You open your mouth, you know exactly what you want to say in your head, but what comes out is just, well, nothing. Dead silence.
That's the classic anxiety dream, right? The freeze response.
Yeah.
But for so many people listening, especially those learning a new language, that is not a dream.
No.
That is the very real, waking reality of their daily lives. It's that moment where the brain just shuts down.
Exactly. It's the universal nightmare for a language learner. And honestly, it stops so many people before they even really begin. But today, we're going to fix that.
I'm going to try.
We're diving into a really fascinating piece of audio. It's called Easy Speak Lab English, Episode 1. And the title alone tells you everything. The mistake that made me better.
It's a great title because it immediately flips the script on how we think about learning. You know, in a traditional school setting, mistakes are the enemy.
Right. They lower your grade.
Mistakes mean you didn't study enough. But this source material, it's framing the mistake as the actual tool for improvement. It argues that without the mistake, there is no better.
And that's our mission today. We're going to unpack this to deconstruct that fear of speaking English. We want to move you, the listener, from this mindset of performance, where everything has to be perfect.
Like you're on a stage.
Yes. To a mindset of a laboratory experiment.
I love that distinction. A performance implies a critic, an audience that's judging you, but a laboratory. A lab implies data. It implies curiosity.
Precisely. And the source opens with this really cool metaphor. It welcomes listeners to their English laboratory. It says, this is the place where you practice, where you make mistakes, and where you grow.
And that shift is just huge.
It is. In a lab, if you mix two chemicals and they explode, you don't say, I'm a bad person. You don't say, I'm a failure.
No, you say, okay, noted. Don't mix blue with red.
Exactly. That goes boom.
And that is the crucial difference. In a lab, an explosion is just a result. It's information. It's neutral. In a social setting, a verbal mistake, that feels like a judgment on your intelligence. It feels personal.
So let's get into the meat of this, because the source material, it really doesn't shy away from the pain. It starts by asking the big question. Are you afraid of speaking English?
And the answer for most of us, especially at the beginning, is a huge yes.
A resounding yes.
And the source, it breaks down the anatomy of that fear so perfectly. It talks about the internal monologue. Though, what if I say something wrong? Or what if my grammar is bad?
The logical fears.
Right. Then it hits on the real fear, the emotional one. What if people laugh?
Ugh, that's the killer, being laughed at. It triggers something so primal in us. You want to belong, not be the punchline.
Which connects directly to this alley paradox that the source brings up. It's a character, really a cautionary tale, to show what happens when you let that fear of laughter win.
Oh, poor Ollie. Let's talk about Ollie, because I feel like I have been Ollie. I think a lot of our listeners have been Ollie.
I think we all have at some point. So Ali is described as the perfect student on paper. He studies every single day. He knows the grammar rules inside and out.
He's the guy with the color-coded flashcards.
Totally. You give him a written test, he aces it, he has the vocabulary, he has all the apps. But then the source puts him in a real-world scenario.
Right. He's traveling.
He's finally in the environment he studied for. And someone asks him the simplest question imaginable. Where are you from?
A question he definitely knows the answer to. He probably practiced that exact sentence on day one.
100%.
Know that.
But what happens? He freezes.
Silence.
He just stays silent. Because the fear of potentially making a tiny mistake, maybe mispronouncing the country, maybe using the wrong preposition, that fear is stronger than his actual knowledge.
It's tragic, really. All that work, all that data in his head. But he can't access it because perfect is the enemy of spoken.
And that's the difference the source draws between studying and speaking. You can study grammar in a vacuum, in a safe room, but language is action. It requires a different set of muscles, you know. both physical and psychological.
Excellent.
If you wait until you're perfect to speak, you'll be silent forever because that finish line just keeps moving.
And speaking of not being perfect, this is where it gets really interesting. The source material shares a personal story from the narrator that is just, oh man, it's visceral. It is a cringe moment for the ages.
It is. And the context is important here. This story is from 5 years ago. The narrator says they were A2 level.
So elementary.
Right. You can handle basic survival stuff, but you are not debating philosophy. You are still building the foundation.
Okay, so high stakes for their skill level. The setting is a restaurant in a foreign country. They're with friends, and here comes the waiter.
And the waiter does what waiters do. He speaks fast. Real world speed. Not slowing down like a teacher.
And the narrator admits to doing something we have all done. They pretend to understand.
The old smile and nod.
The smile and nod. They want to look confident. They don't want to break the flow in front of their friends.
Which is already a dangerous game. You're building a house of cards on a foundation of, I have no idea what's happening.
And then the collapse. The narrator wants to ask for a sheet of paper. Just a simple sheet of paper.
Seems simple enough.
No, but pronunciation is a tricky beast in English.
It certainly is. Especially with vowels. We have these things called minimal pairs. The tiny difference between sheet with a long E, like in sheet.
Oh, well, the other word with a short I, like insit.
The profanity.
Yeah, the bad word.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what happens. The narrator asks the waiter for a piece of, well, you know.
A catastrophic mispronunciation in a very public setting.
The source describes the reaction perfectly. It says the table goes quiet, the silence just takes over, the waiter stops. And then it happens. Someone starts laughing.
And that laughter confirms the nightmare we talked about. The thing Ali was so afraid of being laughed at, it actually happened to the narrator.
The physical reaction described is so real, my face became red, my heart was beating fast. And then the flight response kicks in. The narrator says, I wanted to leave the restaurant. I wanted to stop speaking English forever.
This is the critical moment. This is what I call the crossroads of fluency. When you hit a wall of shame like that, and everyone does, you have two choices.
Two paths.
You can retreat into silence, like Ollie, and stick to your safe textbooks where no one laughs. Or you can process the shame and keep going. It's the difference between trauma and training.
Wow, trauma versus training. I like that.
Because shame is a powerful inhibitor. It tells your brain, don't do that again, it hurt. Which keeps us from touching fire. But in language learning, that instinct kills progress. The shame is the barrier, not the vocabulary.
Right. They knew the words paper and sheet. It was a mechanical error that caused a psychological meltdown.
Exactly.
So let's look at what happened next, the aftermath, because this is the turnaround part of the story. This is where the laboratory mindset really kicks in.
Right. So they go home and they describe feeling sad, asking themselves, why am I doing this? Why is it so difficult? And that despair is valid. It's okay to feel bad about it for a night.
But, and this is the pivot, they didn't quit. The source says the very next day, they started practicing that specific pronunciation. They watched videos on the difference between the long E and the short I.
They sat in their room repeating the words.
Which brings us right back to the laboratory concept. The experiment failed in the restaurant.
The beaker exploded.
Yes, but the narrator went back to the lab to analyze the data. They didn't say, I am stupid. They said, okay, I messed up that vowel sound. My mouth shape was wrong. Let me fix the instrument.
And the result wasn't overnight magic. Source says it took 3 months of practice. But eventually they spoke more clearly and felt more confident.
And the ultimate victory wasn't just speaking clearly. It was the fact that later they could tell that story to someone else and laugh with them.
That is the key. Laughing with, not being laughed at. When you own the mistake, when you turn it into a story, you take away its power to hurt you. You become the hero of a funny story, not the victim of a tragedy.
I love that. So the mistake didn't destroy them. It gave them the exact feedback they needed to fix a hole in their game.
Precisely. If they hadn't made that huge, embarrassing mistake, they might still be mispronouncing it today. The mistake was the teacher.
Okay, so we have the mindset, the lab, we have the cautionary tale, Ollie, we have the war story, the sheet incident. Now let's look at the toolkit, because the source gives us specific things to build this confidence.
It does. It focuses on a few keywords: embarrassed, brave, confident, and improve.
Let's start with embarrassed. The source treats it as a temporary state. I felt embarrassed, past tense.
It's an emotion, not an identity. You aren't an embarrassment, you felt embarrassed. That separation is so important, separating your self-worth from your language performance.
And then brave. I really like how the source redefines this. Bravery isn't fighting a bear. Here, bravery is just ordering dinner when you aren't sure of the pronunciation.
It's micro-bravery. It's the courage to be imperfect in public. And that courage leads to confident and improve. Those are the results of the action. You don't get confident to speak, you speak to get confident.
That is a bumper sticker right there. You don't get confident to speak, you speak to get confident. So many people are just waiting for the confidence to arrive in the mail before they open their mouths.
And it never arrives that way. It's a feedback loop. Action first, feeling second.
The source also mentions a specific technique called lab practice. It involves affirmations, physically repeating phrases like, I am not afraid of mistakes.
Now, some listeners might roll their eyes at that, thinking it's a bit silly, but there's a mechanical purpose here. The source tells you to whisper it, then say it louder.
I am not afraid of mistakes.
Exactly. By physically making the sound, you are training your vocal cords and your brain to associate your voice with English. For someone like Ali, who stays silent, just stating I am from out loud is a massive victory.
It breaks the seal of silence.
It does. Once you hear your own voice, the monster in the room gets a little smaller. You are proving to your brain that speaking English doesn't result in physical harm.
Which leads us to the source's whole philosophy on fluency. They call it the rule of mistakes. It says, to be fluent, you must make 1,000 mistakes.
I think that's a conservative estimate, honestly.
I was gonna say, I'd bet on 2,000, maybe 5,000.
The number doesn't matter as much as the idea, the inevitability. If you accept that the price to get into Fluency City is 1,000 mistakes, you start handing them out like currency.
I love that image. Here's my payment, one bad grammar mistake, keep the change.
Exactly. It gamifies it. Instead of avoiding mistakes, you start collecting them. Okay, that's mistake number 452. Only 548 to go.
That takes so much pressure off. It makes the mistake a sign of progress, not failure.
The expert in the source poses a really great survival check for the listener. They ask you, think of your last mistake. Did you survive?
It's such a reality check.
Are you still here? Yes. Did the ground open up and swallow you? No.
Did the waiter actually care for more than 2 seconds? Probably not.
Conclusion. The mistake did not destroy you. Our anxiety tells us it will, but reality proves it won't.
It's so simple, but we forget it in the heat of the moment. We act like a grammar error is a tiger in the bushes.
Our brains are wired to fear social rejection the same way we fear predators. But in the modern world, mispronouncing sheet just makes for a good story later. It's not death.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for someone listening today? How do they apply this tomorrow morning?
It means reframing the goal. The goal is not don't mess up. The goal is collect data. If you go into a conversation thinking, I am an experimenter in a lab, the pressure just drops. You become curious instead of terrified.
It brings us back to that final call to action from the source. This is a laboratory. We experiment, we try, we fail, we try again.
And notice the we. You aren't alone in this. Every single person who speaks a second language has had their sheet moment.
Oh, yeah.
I have. You have.
Oh, absolutely. I once asked for preservatives in another language when I meant preserves, like jam. And in that language, the word meant, well, something very different.
See? And you survived. And now it's a funny anecdote.
Barely. But yes, I am still here. And I learned the word for jam really, really well after that.
And that's the point. The source ends with a really powerful question. If you haven't made a mistake today, have you actually practiced today?
That's the challenge, isn't it? If you played it safe, you didn't really enter the lab, you just stood in the hallway looking through the window.
You have to go in, you have to break some things, make a mess. That is what learning looks like. It's messy.
So, to everyone listening, we want you to go out there and make a big, loud, embarrassing mistake today. Talk to someone. Say something wrong. And when you do, give yourself a high five.
Because you just earned your fluency. You just added a data point.
And remember, it is just data, it's not you.
Exactly. See you in the lab.
That's it for this deep dive into Easy Speak Lab English. We'll see you in the next experiment.